In this tutorial, we will learn how to create a table for posts so that users can make posts. We'll also add a page where users can submit new posts with a form. And we will start out by making some modifications in Flask app. So in here, we are going to store the time of the post. So we're going to import from the datetime package. We're going to import date time, so that's a little confusing that it has the same name for both things, but it's an item called datetime, which is inside of a file called datetime. All right, so we're going to be using that. I'm going to create a class called post. It's going to be a database class, so I'm going to put it right underneath the other ones. So post, database model, and it is going to have 4 columns. It's going to have the ID like the other ones. It's just going to be an integer. And it's going to be the primary key, which means this is going to be the column that's used to figure out which posts are unique. So all of the other columns could have duplicates, but this column would never have a duplicate. Every post is going to have its own unique ID. Body is going to be equal to a string. Timestamp is going to be equal to a column that stores a date time. And we're going to index this. That means that it's highly likely we're going to want to sort our results from the database by time, and so this will make that faster if the database knows ahead of time that it should index these results. And we're also going to provide a default function for this, so if you don't specify the timestamp, instead of having an empty column, it's going to use this function, the datetime.utc_now function, to figure out what the time is, and it's going to use that, so you don't have an empty column. And then, of course, we're going to want to keep track of which user made this post. So we're going to have a column for the user ID also. So I'm going to make a column. It's going to match the type of the user ID up here, which is also an integer. So, and it's also going to be a foreign key, which means that you should only be able to put values in this column if that user actually exists. So we're going to say where the foreign key is. It's in the user table in the ID column. And this is going to make sure that you don't put something in the user ID that doesn't match any of the users. So it's going to know that this field should be one of the values back here in the user ID. All right, so there's that class, and remember that this doesn't create the database yet. We have to run the db.createAll. So I'm just going to go to Bash console. We'll save this first. Go to Bash console, and then change into the my site directory. And then I'm going to use Python 3.6 to run the Flask app. No errors. That's good. Let's check the MySQL console. I'm going to show the tables. And there is a post table now, and it should be empty because I just barely created it. It is empty. All right, so let's go back to Flask app, and now let's make a form that users can use to create a post. So I'll go to where my other forms are. Let's see, I'll do it right after here, after the login form. Class, I'll do a post form. It's going to extend Flask form. And it's going to have just a couple fields. I'm going to have the post or the message that the user wants to post, and then a button to submit it. So I'll say like message is equal to string field, and I want the field to be called message, or you could call it post, whatever you want the user to see. And we're going to use the input required validator. And because I said in the database that the maximum size of a post would be 280, I'm going to enforce that right here so that I don't have to cut off someone's post. Length is max equals 280, so there's another validator right there. And then I'll put a submit field. And this will appear as a button, and I want the button to say post. All right, now I need to create a template for this page. So I'm going to go and create a new template. So I'll save this. Go to index.html and let's go back to the templates directory and let's create posts.html. Now in here, I'm going to do a lot of stuff that we've done before. So extends the base.html. Also going to import the WTF template that Bootstrap provides. Bootstrap. And remember, this is Flask Bootstrap, so it's a Flask extension that helps you to create HTML that uses Bootstrap classes. WTF.html. So it's made by different people than the people that made Bootstrap. All right, and then we are going to, of course, choose a title for this. So the title is going to be, this will be the posts page. And then that's the end block. Whoops, I forgot the block right here. So this is a block for the title. Then end block, and then the next one, a block for the content. So block for the content. And this one, I'm going to put it all inside of a div with a class of container so that it centers this stuff in the middle of the page. And then I'm going to just create a heading. We'll call it maybe like make a post, just so the person knows this is a forum where you can make a post. And I'm going to use, right here is where I'm going to use the WTFs that I imported up here. So WTF.quick form. And I'm going to use the form that I will need to pass into this template. So this template's not going to work unless I pass in a form. And I'm also going to create a button map because I want to choose the color for my submit button. Otherwise it would just be a default white. So I'm going to choose the color to be the primary color. And the default primary color in Bootstrap is just blue. All right, so that's going to create the form. And then I'm also going to create another section that's just called previous posts. So you can see the previous posts that you've made. Previous post. All right, and then for this, in order to do this, I'm going to have to pass in the previous post. So for post in posts, so then I'm going to just create, it'd probably be nice to do this in a table, but I'm just going to start out like this and it can be improved later. I'm just going to do the post.body. And then I will end that loop. So end that for loop. And then then already ended the div, and then I'll just end the block. All right, let's save this. So here's my template, and the only way this template will work, it's relying on form and on posts. So I need to make sure that when I render this template that I pass in a form and I pass in posts. So let's go back to Flask app and create this route. What's it saying here? Undefined name validator. Whoops, validators. All right, down, let's create this. I'll just do it in alphabetical order. So right after logout, so app.route slash to start out the route, and I'll call this posts. And then I'll just give it the same name for the function. And one thing is that if the user is not authenticated, they're not going to be able to see their posts or make posts. So I will redirect them to the login page. So if not current user is authenticated, then I'll return them to the, I'll return a redirect to the URL for the login page. Also, I'm not going to put the posts link on the navigation bar unless you're logged in. So usually they wouldn't be able to get to this page unless they're logged in, but they could always manually type /posts in the address bar of the browser to get there. So I'm going to create a form, and it's going to be a post form, the kind that I just created earlier. And then I'm going to check and see. Oh, I forgot to say that this route is going to handle both getting the form and processing the form when it has data. So both get and post methods. Remember, get is what is used when you want to get the form, and post when you have data that's being sent back in the form. All right, so posts equals, now I'm going to query the post table. I'm going to filter by the user ID, and I want the user ID to match the current user ID. So the current user, I'm going to get their ID, and I want all the posts. So in the past, we've just usually gotten one thing and we've used first. Now I'm going to use all because I want all the posts from this user. Next, I'm going to validate. So form.validate on submit. And if they have a valid form, then I'll make a new post for them. So I'm going to make a new post. It's going to be a post, and I definitely want to make sure to get the right user ID there. So it's going to be the current user's ID, and I want to make sure that the body is correct. So the body is going to be equal to the form, and I called the field message. So if you called it something different, you would use that name instead, and it's the data inside of that field in the form. I'm not going to fill in the timestamp because I already have a default that's going to automatically fill it. So that's all I need to create a new post. And now I'm going to commit that to the database. So database.session.add, sorry, first going to add it, then commit post, and then database session.commit. And also, I'm going to add that post that they just barely made to all of their other posts. So posts.append that new post. All right, and now the last thing I'm going to do is return the rendered template. So I'm going to render the template, and it's the one I just created, post.html. And remember, I need to pass in two things for this to work. I need to pass in a form field. I decided to name it form up here. So it's going to be the exact same name as the argument. And then the other thing is posts. I have to pass in the posts for that loop to work. And I also called this posts, so the exact same name as the parameter name. All right, go ahead and hit save. Let's restart the app, and let's go take a look. Now I could type, well, let's do it, /posts. Oh, it's saying that there's an error right there. Okay, let's go take a look at the error. Where is my error tab? Unexpected curly brace. All right, well, the only place is probably going to be curly braces in here. Oh, probably this one right here. I forgot the percent sign. All right. Before I try it again, I'm going to go change the navigation bar. I'm going to add a posts view. So right here, posts view is going to be equal to a view post. And the only type of user that should see this is a logged in user. So if the current user is authenticated, I'll just add it right here. Whoops, restart the app. Let's see. All right, I'm logged in. Let me go to posts. Oh, still an error. Let's take a look. Okay, it looks like it's happening with Jinja, so it's still happening in that template. So let me look back and see if I can see any other problems. I'm looking to see if the syntax is correct. So everything should either start with a curly brace and a percent sign and end with a percent sign and a curly brace, or double curly braces. Let's make sure that the function is working. All right. Let me scroll up a little more and see if I can see a better error message. Searching for something that says, here we go, it just says unexpected curly brace. I'm going to save and restart one more time. expected a comma and got a curly brace. Oh. So while it's trying to render this, expected a comma, got a curly brace. Oh, the button map equals, okay, there we go. All right, so he's here. We see that you can make a post. Today is a great day. Then you see the previous posts. Then you should probably change this so that it disappears after you've typed your message. Here is another exciting post. All right, and one last thing that we want to do is add just everybody's posts to the home page. So that if someone comes to the website and wants to see how this works, but they're not logged in and so they can't make posts, at least they'll see other people's posts here on the home page. So that means I'm going to have to change index.html, which is the template that's being used for the home page. So on here, open up another tab, index.html, and I just want to add something under here, another section. So let's just make a section, I'll use h3, and it'll say recent posts from users. All right, so for post in posts, so that means that this template is not going to work unless you pass in posts, because it's not going to know what this variable is unless you pass it in. So I'll have to go modify Flask app after doing this. I'm just going to make a paragraph for each of the posts. So post.body. And then we'll just end that for loop. Go ahead and hit save. Now go back to Flask app, and I'm going to find the route for the home page. So right here. So I'm going to make a query of the posts. So I'm going to say post equal to the post class. So query that table. And I'm not really going to filter by anything because I just want all of them. But I do want to limit it and I do want to order it. So I'm going to order these by the post timestamp. And I'm going to do it descending. So it gets the most recent ones first. And then I'm going to limit it to just 20 of them. And then I want to get all of the posts that were returned. And then I'm just going to pass that in to the template. Restart the app. Let's go back to the home page and refresh. Now we can see here recent posts from users. Since I'm the only user, it's only showing mine. But if you had multiple users, then it would show all of the users here. This isn't completely ideal. It doesn't show the user's name here, so you have no idea who made this post. So that could be one improvement that could be added in the future. For now, it seems to be working. I'm going to commit these changes. So let's go back. Just going to take a quick look at the changes that I'm committing. I did add a template called post.html, and I modified Flask app and index.html. If I want to look closer at the differences, I can use get diff. I can see the lines that I added and the lines that I deleted. Keep pressing space until I get to the end, and all of that looks good. So I'm going to add all of those changes and commit all of them. So added a posts table and a posts page or template. All right, that's the end of this tutorial.